Admitted, the strange tale of Depsey the rabbit. Chapter 37, The Artist's Vision. In dimensions that existed before light learned to cast shadows, something ancient stirred. The Rojob's hunger had been satisfied for centuries, a steady feast of guilt, corruption, and the slow dissolution of innocence. Its network stretched across realities, touching every screen where people watched cartoons, every moment of manufactured joy that masked deeper darkness. But now something was wrong. The feeding channels flickered. Streams of corrupted entertainment wavered like candle flames in cosmic wind. The careful architecture of despair that had taken millennia to construct shuddered under an unexpected assault. A creator, just a creator. The Rojob's consciousness, vast as galaxies and patient as geological time, focused on the disturbance. In a small studio in a minor reality, one human was erasing tentacle marks from cartoon sketches. Such a trivial act. Such insignificant defiance. I have consumed countless makers across infinite realities, the Rojob mused, its thoughts rippling through dimensions like oil spreading across water. Their love always breaks under sufficient pressure. Their hope always curdles into despair. I can overcome him. The entity considered its options with the methodical precision of eons. Confusion first. Make the creator doubt his own work. Then temptation. Offer him what his mortal heart desired most. If those failed, simple destruction would suffice. Break his tools, break his will, break his capacity to create entirely. Mivier, the Rojob called across the void, its voice a frequency that existed between silence and sound. Divyar. Time to remind its servants what their true names meant. Time to end this minor inconvenience. In the sterile monitoring room lined with screens showing 1,000 cartoon worlds, two figures felt their cosmic nature awaken like fire in their bones. Mivier, Mr. Mystery whispered, his red eyes blazing brighter as his true name echoed through his form. The perfectly tailored suit rippled as something far older than human fashion stirred beneath the surface. Divyare, Dr. Dinglegreen hissed, his elongated possum features sharpening to something that belonged in no earthly taxonomy. The pristine surgical coat fluttered as tentacles briefly became visible at its edges. 200 years of careful disguise, 2 centuries of patient corruption, and now their master spoke to them directly. The weight of cosmic attention pressed down like the gravity of dying stars. The creator undoes decades of work with each stroke, Mivier said, watching the monitoring displays with growing alarm. Enhanced performers across dozens of realities were beginning to remember their original purposes. Broadcasting signals wavered as the network destabilized. Impossible, Divyar snarled, his surgical precision replaced by something wild and desperate. He is just one mortal with drawing tools. But the data streams told a different story. Corruption indices dropping across all networks. Enhancement procedures failing as subjects remembered their unmodified selves. The great work, their master's patient cultivation of despair, unraveling thread by careful thread. The Rojob's voice thundered through their consciousness, bypassing their ears entirely. Implement confusion tactics, offer temptations. If necessary, destroy his capacity to create. Do not fail me again. The threat hung unspoken, but absolute. Eternal servants who disappointed their master learned the true meaning of suffering. Confusion first, Mivier decided, his form beginning to shift towards something more directly threatening. Make him doubt everything he believes about his own work. Then temptation, Divyar agreed, accessing files of human psychological weakness accumulated over centuries. I have his wife's medical records. Her death, his grief, perfect leverage. They began implementing their master's will, cosmic servants desperate to avoid cosmic punishment. Willie reached for a fresh pencil, the third one in 5 minutes. The previous two had snapped the moment he'd tried to erase another tentacle mark, the wood splintering like it had been frozen in liquid nitrogen. "Come on," he muttered, examining the clean sketch of Chuck's original design. The yellow chatterbox should have been beaming with innocent optimism, but corruption marks crowded around his smile, turning joy into something predatory. The studio felt wrong. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees, and the familiar warmth of his workspace had been replaced by something that reminded him uncomfortably of morgues and empty hospitals. His breath was starting to mist. The pencil felt strange in his hand, heavier than graphite and wood should be, as if gravity had decided to pay special attention to his tools. When he pressed the eraser to paper, it crumbled like chalk, leaving grey dust instead of clean white space. "You don't get to corrupt my work," Willie said aloud, reaching for his backup supplies. Professional outrage was building in his chest, the same fury he'd felt 40 years ago when a studio executive had tried to change Depsey's bow tie from red to purple for market testing. This was worse. This was violation on a cosmic scale. Despite the supernatural resistance, he managed to complete one clean erasure. A single tentacle mark disappeared from Chuck's sketch, and immediately the figure on the projector screen brightened. The yellow seemed more vibrant, more authentic. "It's working!" Chuck's voice came through the dimensional connection, filled with wonder. "Willie, you're actually fixing us!" The confirmation sent a surge of determination through him. Whatever was fighting him, whatever was making his tools rebel and his studio feel like a tomb, it could be beaten. Love was stronger than corruption. It had to be. He reached for another pencil, and this time when it tried to snap, his grip held firm. "Destruction is crude," the Rojob mused, watching its servant's initial efforts meet stubborn resistance. "Seduction is elegant." The ancient entity had consumed creators across countless realities, and they all shared certain weaknesses. Ego, usually, the hunger for recognition, for immortality through art. Fear of irrelevance, of being forgotten. The desperate need to matter in an indifferent universe. But this one felt different. The Rojob probed deeper, reaching across dimensional barriers to access the creator's memories. Ah, there. Perfect leverage. Sarah. The woman's death had nearly broken him. Cancer, slow and merciless, eating away at the person he loved most while he sat helpless in hospital chairs. The Rojob had seen this pattern before, grief transforming love into obsession, hope curdling into desperate bargaining, with forces beyond mortal comprehension. Give him what he wants most, the entity decided, then take everything. The Rojob began weaving the temptation with care. Not crude resurrection, that would be obviously false. Something subtler. The possibility of return. A trade. Stop the restoration work, abandon the cartoon characters to their corrupted fate, and Sarah could come back. Not alive exactly, but present. Real enough to touch, to hear her voice again, to pretend the last 3 years had been the nightmare instead of her absence. No creator resists the return of their beloved, the Rojob assured itself. I have broken stronger wills with lesser offerings. The entity smiled across dimensions, secure in its understanding of mortal weakness. Love was always selfish at its core, always negotiable when the price was right. Time to make the offer. "Now," Mivia whispered, channeling their master's temptation through the dimensional barriers. In Willie's studio, the air shimmered. The projection light flickered, and for a moment something else appeared in the beam. Not Chuck and Depsey, but a figure Willie knew better than his own reflection. Sarah. She stood in the light exactly as he remembered her before the cancer. Auburn hair catching the glow, eyes bright with the intelligence that had first attracted him 40 years ago. The same blue dress she'd worn to their anniversary dinner, the one where she'd insisted on dancing, despite being tired from chemotherapy. "Willie," she said, and her voice was exactly right. The slight rasp from years of teaching kindergarten, the way she always made his name sound like music. "Stop this work, come home to me." His hand froze over the eraser. The pencil trembled in his grip. "Sarah?" The word came out broken, desperate. "How are you?" "Does it matter?" she interrupted gently. "I'm here. I can be here with you forever. Just stop what you're doing. Let them have their little cartoon world. Come home." In the monitoring room, Deviar watched the creator's vital signs spike. Elevated heart rate, emotional distress peaking. The temptation is taking hold. "He's weakening," my VR confirmed, studying the data streams. Another few moments But something was wrong. The restoration work hadn't stopped. If anything, the corruption indices were dropping faster. The creator's hand was moving again, eraser pressing against tentacle marks with renewed purpose. "He's not responding to standard manipulation," Deviara hissed. "Impossible. The wife leverage has never failed." "Implement physical measures," my VR snarled. "If temptation fails, we destroy everything." Willie stared at the vision of Sarah, his heart breaking all over again. She was perfect, too perfect. Every detail exactly as he remembered, but somehow hollow underneath. Like a photograph come to life, but missing the indefinable spark that had made her real. "Sarah would never ask me to stop creating," he said quietly. The figure in the light flickered slightly. "Willie, please." "She spent her last months watching me draw," he continued, memory flooding back. "Hospital nights when the chemo made her too sick to sleep. I'd sit by her bed and sketch Depsey scenes and His voice caught. "She'd make me tell her stories about where they were going, what they'd do next." The false Sarah's expression began to shift, losing the gentle patience that had been so perfectly replicated. "That doesn't matter now. I'm here. We can be together." "No." Willie's grip tightened on the eraser. Sarah said, "Pour your heart into it, Willie. That's what makes it real." Her last words to me were, "Keep creating joy after I'm gone." The vision of his wife twisted, revealing something darker underneath. "You're choosing them over me?" "I'm choosing what she actually wanted," Willie said, turning back to Chuck's sketch with renewed determination. "She died wanting me to bring happiness to others. You're asking me to betray everything she believed in." The false Sarah shrieked as it dissolved, leaving only the warm light of the projector and the faces of two cartoon characters who needed him. "Nobody threatens my family through my work," Willie said, his voice carrying the protective fury of a grandfather whose grandchildren had been endangered. These characters were his family now, artistic children born from love and loss, needing protection from forces that would corrupt them. The eraser began to glow. The change was subtle at first, just a slight warmth spreading from the pink rubber into Willie's fingers. But as he pressed it against another tentacle mark, the glow intensified, driving back the supernatural cold that had invaded his studio. "What's happening?" Chuck's voice came through the projector, filled with wonder. "Love," Willie said simply, erasing another corruption with systematic precision. "Real love, not the fake stuff they tried to use against me." Each stroke of the glowing eraser didn't just remove the tentacle marks, it removed the cosmic influence they represented. On the projector screen, Chuck and Depsey were transforming in real time, becoming more vibrant, more authentically themselves. "We're remembering," Depsey said, his voice losing the haunted quality that had marked it for so long. "We're remembering what it felt like to be created with joy." The studio tools that had been fighting Willie moments before now responded to his touch like eager partners. Pencils stayed sharp, erasers held firm, paper lay flat and cooperative. The workspace was warming, becoming the sanctuary it had always been meant to be. Every detail matters, Willie murmured, working with the methodical care of 4 decades of animation. Every line has meaning. Every character deserves to be what they were meant to be. The glow from his eraser intensified, and somewhere in dimensions beyond mortal comprehension, something ancient began to retreat. This is impossible. The Rojob's consciousness writhed across cosmic distances, its carefully maintained composure cracking under unprecedented resistance. The Creator was supposed to be broken by now, tempted, corrupted, or destroyed like so many others before him. He is just a mortal, just flesh and sentiment and foolish attachment. But the evidence was undeniable. Corruption networks were collapsing across multiple realities. Enhanced performers were remembering their original purposes. The great work, millennia of patient cultivation, was unraveling faster than it could be repaired. "Destroy him!" the Rojob shrieked across dimensions, abandoning all subtlety. "Destroy everything!" The entity hurled its full power toward the small studio where one human sat with glowing art supplies, systematically undoing centuries of cosmic corruption. Brute force where manipulation had failed. Raw hunger where seduction had been rejected. But as the Rojob's attention focused entirely on that single point of resistance, something unexpected happened. The Creator's love, that strange, selfless force the entity had never quite understood, pushed back. And for the first time in its cosmic existence, the Rojob felt something it had never experienced before. Fear. The studio door exploded inward, revealing figures that no longer bothered with human disguise. Mivyar towered 7 feet tall, his red eyes blazing like stars, his form shifting between shapes too alien for mortal perception. Divyari scuttled across the ceiling on too many legs, his surgical precision replaced by predatory hunger. "Surrender," Mivyar commanded, his voice echoing from multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Or watch everything burn." Willie looked up from Lucy's sketch, delicate porcelain features half restored, corruption marks still crowding around her crown. "These are my characters," he said quietly, "and nobody hurts my family." The eraser's glow exploded outward, filling the studio with light that was somehow warm and cold simultaneously, the exact temperature of love mixed with protective fury. The entities shrieked as the radiance touched them, their cosmic forms wavering like mirages in desert heat. "Impossible!" Divyar hissed, his multiple eyes screaming something that might have been tears or ichor. "We are eternal. We are beyond your mortal comprehension." "You're parasites," Willie said, continuing his restoration work even as reality warped around him. "And I'm the immune system." The light intensified, and suddenly the entities were retreating, not destroyed but wounded, exiled. They fell backward through dimensional rifts that opened like wounds in space, their screams doppling away into cosmic distances. "We will return." Mivyar's voice echoed from the closing portal. "The Rojob's hunger is eternal." "Not in my studio," Willie said, and the rifts sealed with the finality of artistic decision. The workspace returned to normal. Warm lamplight, familiar shadows, the comfortable clutter of creative work. On the projector screen, Chuck and Depsey looked more like themselves than they had in months. "We're free," Chuck marveled. "We're actually ourselves again." "I helped build their weapon," Depsey said quietly. "For 20 years I thought I was just surviving, just protecting myself. But I was helping them corrupt the very idea of innocent entertainment. Every child who watched our show, every moment of joy they stole. I made that possible." The weight of systemic guilt hung in the air, but somehow it felt cleaner than the denial that had preceded it. Truth, even terrible truth, was the foundation of real healing. But Willie was already turning to the most delicate work. Lucy's sketch lay before him, corruption marks still crowding around her porcelain features. The hardest restoration of all was just beginning. "Now," he said, settling in for the most important work of his career, "let's bring her home."